The city had become suffocating, its noise and chaos wearing me down day by day. So, when I stumbled upon a listing for an isolated Airbnb cabin nestled deep within the woods, I didn't hesitate to book it for a much-needed escape. As I drove up winding roads, the scenery changed from concrete jungles to lush greenery. The anticipation built with each passing mile, until finally, I arrived at my secluded sanctuary. The cabin stood before me, a rustic beauty surrounded by towering trees, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. With a sense of relief flooding over me, I stepped out of my car and took in my surroundings. The air was crisp and clean, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth. It was a welcome change from the smog-filled streets I'd grown accustomed to. Unlocking the door, I stepped inside the cabin, greeted by the warmth of a crackling fire and the cozy embrace of rustic furnishings. The place felt like a haven, a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. As I unpacked my belongings, a sense of peace washed over me. I imagined the quiet evenings spent by the fireplace, the tranquil mornings sipping coffee on the porch. This was exactly what I needed. Just as I settled in, a knock echoed through the cabin, breaking the silence. I hesitated for a moment before making my way to the door. Who could it be? I wondered, my curiosity piqued. Opening the door, I was greeted by a friendly face, the Airbnb host who had graciously welcomed me to the cabin. We exchanged pleasantries, and he offered some tips for exploring the area. "Make sure to take a hike through the woods," he suggested with a smile. "There are some beautiful trails nearby." I nodded, grateful for the recommendation. "Thank you," I replied, feeling a sense of excitement bubbling within me. As the host bid me farewell and drove off into the distance, I couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation for the adventures that lay ahead. This weekend was going to be exactly what I needed, a chance to disconnect, unwind, and find solace in the tranquility of nature. Little did I know, however, that my peaceful getaway would soon take a sinister turn. After settling into the cabin, I felt an irresistible pull to explore the surrounding woods. The forest beckoned with promises of serenity and adventure, and I eagerly obliged. Stepping outside, I inhaled deeply, the crisp forest air filling my lungs. The sunlight filtered through the canopy above, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. With each step, the soft crunch of leaves beneath my boots echoed through the tranquil surroundings. As I wandered deeper into the woods, a sense of peace washed over me. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the occasional chirping of birds. It was as if the outside world had ceased to exist, leaving me enveloped in a cocoon of tranquility. Lost in thought, I rounded a bend in the trail and froze in my tracks. There, just ahead, stood a figure amidst the trees. A man, tall and rugged, with a weathered face and piercing eyes. "Hello?" I called out tentatively, my voice barely a whisper in the vast expanse of the forest. The man turned towards me, his expression unreadable. "Hello there," he replied, his voice gruff yet strangely soothing. I felt a surge of relief flood through me. "I'm just out for a hike," I explained, gesturing to the trail behind me. "I'm staying at the cabin down the road." The man nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Ah, I see. Enjoying the peace and quiet of the woods, are you?" I nodded enthusiastically, unable to contain my excitement. "Yes, it's beautiful out here. Do you hike often?" The man chuckled softly, a twinkle in his eye. "You could say that," he replied cryptically, before turning to continue on his way. As he disappeared into the depths of the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the pit of my stomach. Who was he, and why did he seem to appear out of nowhere? Brushing aside my apprehension, I forged ahead, determined to enjoy my hike despite the encounter. As evening descended upon the cabin, I decided to unwind by watching a movie. The cozy glow of the fireplace cast dancing shadows across the room, and I settled onto the couch, enveloped in the warmth of the crackling flames. Just as the movie reached its climax, a sudden sound shattered the silence, the faint chime of a doorbell. My heart skipped a beat, the unexpected noise sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Who could be calling at this hour? Cautiously, I made my way to the door, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet. Peering through the peephole, I was met with the sight of a familiar figure standing on the porch, the woodsman I had encountered earlier that day. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I opened the door, the cool night air washing over me. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the unease gnawing at my gut. The man offered a friendly smile, though his eyes held a glint of something I couldn't quite place. "Evening," he greeted, his voice gruff yet strangely soothing. "I hate to bother you, but I seem to have lost my way in the woods. Mind if I come in and use your phone to call for help?" A surge of apprehension washed over me, my instincts screaming at me to refuse his request. But I couldn't shake the feeling of obligation, the ingrained politeness that compelled me to offer assistance to a stranger in need. "Of course," I replied, stepping aside to let him enter. "Come on in." As the man crossed the threshold into the cabin, a shiver ran down my spine. There was something off about him, something that set my nerves on edge. But I pushed aside my doubts, chalking it up to paranoia. Leading him to the living room, I gestured towards the phone on the end table. "Feel free to use the phone," I offered, my voice betraying a hint of unease. "I'll just be in the other room if you need anything." The man nodded gratefully, his eyes lingering on me for a moment longer than necessary. "Thank you," he replied, his tone oddly formal. "I'll only be a moment." With that, I retreated to the kitchen, my mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. Was I making a mistake by letting him into the cabin? Or was I simply overreacting to a harmless stranger in need of assistance? As the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. The memory of the woodsman's unexpected visit replayed in my mind like a sinister melody, each note sending shivers down my spine. I paced the length of the cabin, my footsteps echoing off the walls. Something wasn't right, I could feel it in my bones. But try as I might, I couldn't shake the sense of foreboding that had settled over me like a suffocating blanket. Desperate for reassurance, I reached for my phone and dialed my friend's number, the familiar ringtone a lifeline in the darkness. As they picked up on the other end, relief flooded through me like a tidal wave. "Hey, it's me," I began, my voice trembling with barely contained fear. "I need to tell you about something that happened earlier." As I recounted the events of the evening, the woodsman's unexpected visit, the eerie sense of unease that had settled over me like a shroud, my friend listened intently, their concern evident in the hushed tones of their voice. "That sounds really creepy," they replied, their words a balm to my frayed nerves. "Are you sure everything's okay?" I hesitated, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me like a leaden weight. "I don't know," I admitted, the admission tasting bitter on my tongue. "But I can't shake the feeling that something's not right." My friend's reassurances did little to ease my troubled mind, the specter of the woodsman's visit looming large in my thoughts. What did he want? Sleep eluded me as the night pressed on, the unsettling events of the evening replaying in my mind like a haunting melody. The cabin, once a haven, now felt like a trap closing in around me. With each passing moment, my anxiety escalated, and the walls seemed to close in. Determined to make sense of the eerie encounters, I decided to reach out to the local authorities. The phone call to the sheriff's office was met with a courteous response, but as I detailed the strange occurrences, there was an underlying skepticism in the deputy's voice. "Look, we'll send someone to check it out," the deputy assured me, "but it's probably just some local folks messing around. You're in a remote area, and pranks happen." Pranks, I thought. It was a plausible explanation, but the nagging feeling persisted that there was more to the woodsman's actions than mere mischief. Restlessly, I waited for the authorities to arrive, anxiety gnawing at my every thought. The isolation of the cabin became suffocating, and every rustle outside the window felt like a prelude to something more sinister. Suddenly, a knock echoed through the cabin. My heart raced, fear tightening its grip as I approached the door with trepidation. Opening it cautiously, I was met by the sheriff and a deputy, their stern expressions hinting at a lack of urgency. "We checked around, didn't find anything suspicious," the sheriff declared, his tone dismissive. "Probably just someone from the nearby cabins messing with you. Happens all the time." "But he was inside my cabin," I stammered, desperation evident in my voice. "He claimed to be lost, but he's been here twice now. There's something off about him." The sheriff exchanged a skeptical glance with his deputy. "Lost folks sometimes wander where they shouldn't," he remarked, a note of impatience in his voice. "Keep your doors locked, and you'll be fine." With that, they left, leaving me with a sinking feeling that I was on my own. As the night persisted, I fortified the cabin, locking doors and windows, yet the unsettling sensation lingered like a haunting specter. As dawn broke, casting pale light through the cabin windows, I ventured outside cautiously. The woods, once inviting, now seemed to conceal secrets that threatened to unravel my sanity. My phone buzzed, startling me. It was my friend, checking in on me after the harrowing night. I hesitated before answering, the weight of the events settling heavily on my shoulders. "I don't know what to do," I admitted, my voice cracking. The sheriff didn't take it seriously, and I can't shake the feeling that something is terribly wrong. My friend's response was a mix of concern and reassurance. We'll figure this out together. Maybe it's time to consider leaving the cabin and heading back home. Your safety is the priority. The suggestion resonated with a sense of urgency. Gathering my belongings, I left the isolated retreat that had turned from a haven into a nightmare.